We first want to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land that we meet on today, the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and also the traditional owners of the project site, the Bunurong and the Wurundjeri people. We pay our respects to elders past and present, and as a practice we're committed to reconciliation. My name's Kat and this is Justine, and we're the founders and directors of Pop Architecture. The project that we're presenting today was done in collaboration with interior design practice Karyne Murphy Studios. Karyne's in the audience. And the project's called Deco House. The client's brief was really clear from the beginning. Very specifically, they said, don't come with an ego, listen carefully to us, and we want you to make the most of what's there. We know we've got a massive house, but we don't want it to be any bigger. We just want it to be better. So we had to define what better meant in the context of this project. And there was a few things, I guess from the client's perspective, it was about intuitive circulation, connection to landscape, and also having a welcoming feel. And then from our perspective, of course, it was to improve the amenity of the house. Acknowledging what the project is, and that is that it's a very large bespoke home. We wanted to reflect on the methodology for resolving the project, to understand how it could be transferable to other projects. And in analysing this, we found that it was applicable to a range of project types, including adaptive reuse and where a footprint is more or less set, and for whatever reason that is waste reduction, existing conditions or budget. So we've boiled this methodology down to 3 stages, and they're the very officially named Mr. Squiggle, layers and repetition. In case you're unfamiliar, Mr. Squiggle was a puppet in the 80s. He specialised in making sense of squiggle drawings sent in by kids. He really had a vision. And he rejected at its heart the notion of carte blanche. And that's really what we carried into this project. We wanted to make sense of a seemingly sort of disparate set of weird renovations, squiggles and shapes, and thread a holistic language through the project. There are a few moves to try and do this. Critically, the first one was to anchor a new stair to the existing lift shaft, and this created a consolidated arrival zone for quite a few different access points. And it also unlocked circulation, meaning we're able to rationalise the circulation both horizontally and vertically. Another move was about adjusting and moving to create spaces that were more equal in amenity. There was a real disconnect between the way some spaces felt in this house and others. Some were just horrible and some were wonderful, and we really wanted to equalise this. And so sometimes we pushed rooms to the facade, and in others we redistributed space. The third move was to create more view lines, and this was about this notion of connecting with landscape, but obviously it was also about maximising natural light penetration and cross ventilation. The second stage of the methodology was really about how, once you've gone sort of beyond the pragmatic resolution of the plan, how do you infuse a house with an identity crisis, with a language and a vibe? I guess when we think about influences in design, we think about it in different ways depending on the project. Sometimes it's a random set of jiggly bits that kind of settle down eventually. And other times it's more like a layering of influences, and these build up to form a vibe cloud or a way of resolving something. The remnant Art Deco character of the house was a consistent layer. The fact that there were so few original features left after 80 years of renovations meant we had to think more about the essence of the style and how we could embed that rather than replicating heritage details. Other layers varied, and sometimes they were 3 and sometimes they were 20. Sometimes you could see the logic and sometimes you couldn't. To give you a bit of a sense of it, while we were thinking about re-engaging with landscape, we were also thinking about composing interiors in a way that looked like an abstracted landscape. Layered with this was Karyne's really strong sense of materiality and her deep understanding of people's personal connection to materials, their affinity with a particular fabric and how it makes them feel, or something that they touch every day. We wouldn't have expected to layer gold wallpaper with a Zen garden inspired bar, but you know, that's kind of the wonderful thing that comes out of this process. Something pops out at the end that's unexpected and job specific. At the end of these stages, we're able to, this very official methodology, we were able to extract a series of principles. And once we had those principles, we could use them to resolve other aspects of the building. We could repeat these over and over again and thread a holistic language. In these principles, we saw a few things emerge. Curves, and they were often related to this Art Deco reference, but also the sense that curves give you of intuitively leading you into a space. Also, note this idea of filtering light. We had a number of methods for this. We used glass and like a series of glass patterns in a LED lighting design inspired by this kind of Mr. Squiggle infusion, as well as batten screened with shoji rice paper. And all of these things let light filter deeper into the floor plate, but they still maintain privacy. We got into sort of more detailed principles like treating stone in a monolithic way, so it felt more like an abstracted landscape occurrence where you could understand its beauty and character. Timber joinery, really because of this client's association with timber, a feeling of warmth and calm. These principles are obviously very specific to this project, but that's not quite the point. The point is the method of deriving principles that are project specific and then being able to apply them to get a range of outcomes depending on the project. Which returns us to the value of reflecting on this method. It's really so we can understand a way of working rationally but project specifically with existing buildings, embracing their complexity, imperfectness, ugliness, not just raising the site but instead returning value and meaning in a sensitive and less ego-driven way. And obviously the reasons to pursue this approach are important. You know, it's about waste reduction, and it's also about coming to terms with our layered history. Because we really want to be excited by what we can make of any building, whether it's significant or not. Thanks.